recording the meeting. Welcome everybody to the first workshop we're having for the Community Improvement Plan, where we're focusing on the community of Bala. I am going to turn it over right off the bat to Corey Moore from the township to give a few words of welcome and to get the meeting started. Corey.
Perfect. Thank you, Donna. Everyone can hear me okay?
Yes.
Nod your head, thumbs up. Perfect. I'm sure Donna, as others join, they can just join in and catch up. But I know time is of the essence, especially on a beautiful day like it is today. So we'll get going, and Donna can jump into her presentation. For those who don't know me, my name is Corey Moore, and I work for the township in communications and economic development. I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and we look forward to receiving your input on the development of the community improvement plans. One thing I will do is I will just recognize a few other township employees that are participating here today. We have David Pink. David is our Director of Development Services and Environmental Sustainability. And we have Tim Supkow from Public Works. He's our Public Works technician joining us today. And I believe I saw, yes, Councillor Hayes. We have Benelda Hayes joining us. There she is right there waving. So thank you for joining us today. What I'll do is I'll start by giving just a short background of how we got to where we are today, particularly in the community engagement process for the development of these plans. About a year ago today, working with our Economic Development Advisory Committee, we updated our economic development strategy. And through that, downtown enhancement was highlighted as a key priority for growth for our local economy. So with that, we applied to the province and we received some funding to help support the development of community improvement plans for the communities of Bala and Port Carling. I know in Donna's presentation, she's definitely going to go over what that means in a lot more detail, but just high level, the CIP helps identify community project areas and prioritizes them for revitalization so that we as a township can direct investments in a more strategic manner versus an ongoing ad hoc approach. So early this year, we were able to retain the planning partnership as our consultant to develop the plans for us. And with that, Donna, I'd like to introduce Donna. Donna Hind is the project manager. And with that, Donna, I'll turn it over to you. And maybe at the end, Donna, if you could just maybe touch back with me and I can just provide an overview to the group of where they could find some further information on the project as we progress through it.
Perfect. Happy to do that. Okay, great. Thanks, Corey. My name is Donna Hind. I'm a partner at the Planning Partnership, and I'm leading the charge on the Community Improvement Plan with some great colleagues. On the call is Robin Chubb, an associate with the Planning Partnership, a landscape architect and an urban designer. And also on the call is Lauren Millier, who I'll just get you to turn your mic on, Lauren, and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren Millier. I'm with the firm MDB Insight. We do a lot of economic development and related strategic planning work, and I'm here to support the policy considerations that will go into the CIP.
Thanks, Lauren. And Lauren's going to help with the presentation at the tail end. So I'll get started. So I am going to go through the presentation in its entirety, and then we'll pause and we'll take questions. And I'm happy to go back to any of the slides that you're going to see. Corey introduced what a community improvement plan is. It's one of many, many tools that the municipality has at their disposal. Specifically, a community improvement plan is intended to support, as Corey said, strategic investment in the community. In this case, we're talking specifically about Bala. So it helps us identify priorities and helps the township identify where they should focus their efforts. There's two bundles of projects that we're going to be looking to identify through the process. The first is public sector. So any improvements that people have suggestions for improvements to streets, public spaces, open spaces. The second bundle is with respect to the private sector, and through the community improvement plan, it enables the township to create financial incentive programs or tax relief programs to encourage revitalization and redevelopment. So that can be used to improve existing property or redevelop properties. So without a community improvement plan, the Municipal Act does not allow the municipality to offer grants, loans, and tax relief. As Corey said, we are doing this within the context of all the other work that's underway. So the official plan review that's ongoing. So the community improvement plan also needs enabling policy in the official plan in order to implement the program. So we're going to be working hand in glove with the team that's doing the official plan review. We have reviewed the strategic plan, the economic development strategy. We're in the process of going through some of the other documents like the park master plan, the asset management plan, and we have come to understand that there's a specific feasibility study underway for the museum, and that's in Port Carling. Sorry, that's my next workshop. So where we are in the process, so if you can squint your eyes, and I believe on everybody's screen you should have a button that you can increase or decrease the size of the images. So we're working within a 4-phase work program. We are right here.
You didn't share your screen yet.
At a workshop. So I am going to ask everybody to make sure that their mics are off.
Donna, you didn't share your screen yet.
Oh, jeez. Thank you, Robin. Oh my goodness. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. So let me just go back and thank you, Robin. So a community improvement plan, again, 2 bundles of initiatives that we're going to be identifying. One with respect to the public sector, any improvements to streets, parks, open spaces, and the private sector, where we're going to be identifying financial incentive programs, grants, tax relief programs to encourage revitalization and redevelopment. We are working within the context, as I mentioned, of the official plan review, the strategic plan, the economic development plan, parks master plan, asset management plan. So we are here. Now you can see on your screen, and like I mentioned, I hope you have a plus minus button if you have to go in and enlarge the images I'm going to be sharing. We're working within 4 phases. We are here in the 2nd phase. We're having 2 workshops, the one right now on Bala and the 2nd one on Port Carling. We have over the past several weeks offered opportunities to have a one-on-one conversation with me about the project. We've spoken to many counselors one-on-one. We've also talked to the Economic Development Committee. So we're looking to wrap up the project in the fall of this year. Here we are. You can see the air photo of the Bala core area, and this red outline is the area that we're going to be focusing on for the community improvement plan, but the precise boundaries will be determined through the plan. So this is our first and initial cut. So to get everybody organized or oriented, here's the arena and the region, here's the grocery store, the LCBO. You can obviously make out the river, key to Bala, Bala Bay Inn. So it's a large, long stretch of territory. It's about, well, almost 2 kilometers along Highway 169. As probably everybody on the call knows, the official plan is currently under review. These are the land use designations from the current official plan. So again, now the study area is outlined in this thick black line. And you can see it's a mix of commercial uses for resort, highway commercial, the yellow is residential, flanking those core areas, the parks and environmental protection areas. Then when we look at the zoning, so here again, the study area is outlined in this big black line, and most of it is core commercial. So for the people that are phoning in, I just ask you to mute your phone so we don't have background noise. So most of the study area is community commercial in red. The green is open spaces. Yellow is residential. On this diagram, we've taken a little bit of time to locate any attributes in Bala with respect to heritage. So what you're seeing is the boundaries of the Heritage Conservation District, the designated lands, and then the listed properties. And we just, it's for us, it's very important context as we're getting organized. And just to make sure that we're doing everything we can with respect to recognizing the heritage attributes. A little bit about flooding and hazard lands. So this kind of rusty color is identifying the floodway, and in behind that in gold, you're going to see the flood line. And then where there's a floodline elevation. So this is important if we're looking at redevelopment opportunities. We want to be able to identify any considerations that have to be reviewed as part of that process. We had a look at parking in Bala, and through our own estimates of looking at air photo and street level photography, we took a crack at trying to identify the total number of public spaces and private spaces. And we come up with a number of around 650 spaces. And through the process, we're going to show you how this compares to other urban centers. But right from the get-go, we know that there's real limitations on opportunities to provide additional parking in Bala because of just the conditions, the proximity to the water's edge, the natural features, everything else that we want to make sure that we're protecting. So it will be very much a balancing act through the process. We heard in some of the initial conversations the importance of looking forward to a time when we can make it easier for boaters to come in, tie up, and walk into the core commercial areas. So we're just identifying on this map the locations where you can currently bring your boat in, tie up, and visit the core commercial area. Public and public lands, whether it's institutional uses like the Legion and the arena, the library, or whether it's parks and open space in green. And we have heard a little bit about the proposed park that's by the generating station. So I'd love to hear people's thoughts on that at the end of the presentation. So you can see the distribution of the green across our study area. So here's Highway 169 right through the middle. The dam right where my cursor is. We also mapped where there were sidewalks, where there's paved shoulder, where there's a trail and an off-road path. So the trails are in green right here, the sidewalk in red, the paved shoulder in gold. And then the yellow circles from a bullseye, which is around here where my cursor is. It's a 5-minute walk and a 10-minute walk. And here we are. This is a close-up of the dam area. Bullseye right where my cursor is, 5-minute walk. The larger context trails, the location of the Bala historic walk in red, and the snowmobile trail in yellow. We, as part of our analysis and when we do our deeper dive into summarizing what we've come to understand, we have divided the the study area into a number of segments. And so we're looking at the north part of Highway 169 in here. There's Foodland right where my cursor is. Looking at the north part of the core, Portage area, Bala Falls Road, South Core, and then the south part of Highway 169. Here's the Bala Bay Inn right where my cursor is. And we can make these whatever makes sense. So the precise boundaries of these segments might vary as we get into more detail of the exercise. We know that none of these events happened last year, but we know that there's a number of events and festivals that occur in Bala, and we want to make sure that the work that we're doing through this community improvement plan continues to accommodate a wide range of festivals and events in Bala. We were involved in the streetscape improvement work that was done in 2008. So these are drawings from the planning partnership and some of the initial ideas that came out of a very public process in 2008. We had a number of workshops then to figure out the changes that should be made. And so we then are showing you the then and now photographs to remind everybody the work that was done through those improvements that were done at the end 2008, 2009. So here we are in 2006 on the left and in 2018 on the right. We're seeing the paved shoulder and the sidewalk and the new lighting and some of the landscape work in front of the LCBO. On Bala Falls Road, the changes to the curb, how parking was reorganized, and the landscape improvements. And so hoping to build on that work through this exercise, because remember from the beginning slide, an important bundle of improvements are improvements that the municipality can make to streetscape, parks, and open spaces. We know that there's some work being done on Burgess Dam and the Bala Falls Road Bridge. So we'll be monitoring the progress of those two exercises through our work over the next several months and make sure we're reflecting the findings of the two initiatives in the community improvement plan. So I mentioned in the beginning, I had a chance to talk to, I can't remember how many people in total. I'm probably going to say about 15 people through one-on-one conversations in the beginning of their exercise, as well as many of the counselors, to start to understand the opportunities and the challenges for change. And this is a summary of some of the common themes I heard through all of those conversations, that there was a bundle of suggestions that had to do with branding and marketing, just building on the branding and marketing that the township has already done with their, I think it's a fantastic logo that's been in place for several years now, but making sure that through the exercise that we're branding and identifying Bala as distinct from Port Carling. People talk about opportunities for more festivals and celebrations, and there was ideas about buskers, about having more thorough information to tell people what's available in Bala, where you can park, where the trails are, what the businesses are. People in my initial conversations talked about it being dangerous to walk in the winter, that a better kind of walking loop in Bala would be a suggestion, that some of the sidewalk and the connecting links are missing. Everybody recognizes that there's trucks that go down Highway 169, but there's not many opportunities for alternative routes. So we have to figure out how we can live with that condition moving forward. People need to know where to park. That I can't think of a project that this has not been identified, that there's not enough parking. Every project that I do, the urban center, where it's a big, small, or medium-sized community, there's never enough parking. So we're gonna, through this project, talk about how to find the right balance, because nobody wants to affect the very things that give Bala its character. People talked about a boardwalk or boat tie-up around where the key is, so that it could be a bigger boat tie-up, more boats can come in and access the commercial areas without having to drive. and for snowmobiles to identify the parking areas and to make it easy for them to get to the businesses. I had the opportunity to talk to a couple of people that were interested in or expanding, opening up new businesses or expanding their businesses, which is fantastic. There is a lot of energy in Bala, which was really exciting to hear right from the get-go. So people are interested in the grants and funding programs that might be available. Housing, the business owners talked about a lack of housing for staff, lack of affordable housing. Recreation and public use, I heard about a real need and demand for pickleball, something that I didn't even know about until a couple of years ago. And now every single project that I'm working on, we're talking about pickleball courts. For season use, and then cost. Some people were concerned about the cost, that there's limited money to pay for things. But there, on the other hand, there's interest in the grants being available from the municipality. So that's where we're going to be leaning on Lauren from MDB to help us with the economic benefit of these programs. So that is actually a perfect segue over to Lauren to take over and talk about these last couple of slides and just what we've learned about looking at some community improvement plans nearby.
Thanks, Donna. Yeah, I just wanted to give everybody a sense of what other municipalities are doing. And obviously there's two elements to a community improvement plan. There's what a municipality may choose to do insofar as its public realm, be it its waterfront, some of the streetscape improvements that Donna alluded to earlier. But there's also how municipalities can support what local businesses or entrepreneurs will do. There's two examples that we're familiar with at this point in greater detail, and that is the work that Bracebridge has done and Gravenhurst as well. And you can see from this chart the type of CIP programs that they've put in place, fairly consistent in terms of the approach. And you can see too the number of applications that have been improved since these CIPs were put in place in 2019. So there's obviously considerable interest in the type of programming and grant support that's being made available. You can see too the order of magnitude in terms of the grants that are being expended. This is in a single year. So again, it gives you a sense of the order of magnitude that the municipality will need to support by way of grants to area businesses. What is probably most interesting for us, though, is the private sector investment that's being leveraged as a result of the programming that's been put in place by the area municipalities. The return on investment that is described there, these are numbers that have been provided by the two municipalities in terms of for every dollar spent or every dollar invested, the return on that dollar is what you're seeing in that last element in the chart. We don't know what metrics they've used to derive those ratios. We'll certainly have a better understanding of that as we move forward. But this is information that's been published by the municipality. So it gives you a sense of the ROI associated with community improvement work, particularly where it's looking to support business entrepreneurs and the economy more generally. If you want to go to the next slide, Donna.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you. So there's a couple of others that we're looking at as well. There isn't a lot of information that's available online about these municipalities, but we are familiar with them to some degree. Berks Falls, Huntsville, Penetanguishene, and there are a few others in and around the lake and in the area of Muskoka Lakes that we think we'll have a look at as well. And again, the approach to a lot of the municipalities is the same typically, although I would point out that Penetanguishene has also identified affordable housing as one of the elements within their CIP, which we thought was somewhat significant given some of the challenges that we know municipalities are finding trying to provide for not just affordable but attainable housing. And we recognize that there is a difference. So as we get a little further into the project with the planning partnership, we'll have a further look at what these 3 municipalities are doing as well, and seeing if there are some lessons learned there that we can onboard through our work with Muskoka Lakes.
Thanks, Lauren. So that is the conclusion of the presentation. Now is the time that I'm really hoping we can hear from as many people as we can on the call. We have a good hour, so we have lots of time to have a conversation. I'm going to go down through my list, and it's alphabetical by first name. I'm going to call you out just in groups of 3. And if I don't see your mic coming on, I'll go to the next 3 and the next 3. And I'm happy to go back and forth to any of the slides that you want to have another look at. And then, as I mentioned, Robin will monitor the chat box, and as we go through, he'll identify anything that we should be sharing with the group. So I am going to call out now some people. I don't have a name or a number attached to it, so I just have something that says iPhone and iPad, and those are the first ones on my list. And then I have Nora. I think the iPhone one, you had mentioned some things in the beginning when we were just getting organized, so I'll give you a chance to come on. I apologize, I'm not seeing a name associated with. So I'll go to Nora.
Hi there.
Hi, Nora.
So we can just sort of throw out anything.
Certainly can. Go ahead.
I was curious about whether there was any, I'm just keeping my camera off because of broadband issues,
Yep.
but I wondered if there was any conversation way back in the 2002 streetscape. There was discussion about a snowmobile bridge. And I know in the winter we still have people, you know, going on the highway and that sort of thing. And I noticed when we got to the snowmobile section that I guess it hasn't come up yet. Has that come up in any of the discussions? And I'd be curious to see if anybody is still wondering about that.
It has not come up in any of the discussions I've had so far, but the discussions are for sure not over. So I'm happy to hear that. Is there a specific location that's been identified for the snowmobile bridge?
Well, we'd have to go back to that 2002 history for the streetscape, but the idea is right now when they come off of Bala Falls Road,
yeah,
they're they're right on the highway coming across the bridge area and past the portage landing, etc. Anyway, I just know that it continues to be an issue,
okay.
And there was a lot of talk and a lot of desire to have some kind of other way for them to get from one spot to the other and to be able to use all of our businesses. I think that, you know, I believe that Ken Bowl was very involved in that. I know that there's a couple of the Bowls on, so maybe when they get to their group, they could speak to that.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for that. Anything else from your perspective?
We've been through this process a few times, and you know, speaking for some of the businesses, you know, I'd like to see more engagement, but I think that people are just sort of hesitant and maybe not necessarily trusting the process. We've seen these come and go, and then nothing sort of happens. So it was really great to see how much that money can be leveraged, that grant money. So maybe if there was more about that, about the different grants that are possible to get, and how that might impact you as a business owner. There's also concern that the CIP means business tax and things like that. But I think that they just really want to see some forward motion. And there's a hesitancy from some people that have spoken to me about this, because we actually tried to promote to get people to join you, saying that, well, you know, nothing ever happens. So I'm sorry, that's a very negative, but that's a reality. So I think that needs to be taken into consideration, is that people really do want to see some forward motion. And yet when you showed us some of those pictures of some of the before and after, you see that things really have happened. So that's very positive. Thanks.
So I did want to remind everybody that, because I think that the township has in fact taken action on some of those earlier studies, which I think is terrific. But the point about going forward, they have to keep taking action. I think that's a really important message. And I'm not sure, Lauren, if, I'll just see if I can go back to that previous slide. Lauren, is there anything that you want to share specifically, just to the point about the different kinds of grants that are available and the kind of programs they can incentivize?
If you want to go back to the slide, that would be helpful. I think one of the challenges, it's certainly in the work that we've done in other communities with CIPs, is the understanding and appreciation on the part of the business community of what is there. Very often, there needs to be an accompanying education piece and a marketing piece that's associated with the programming. And we find the communities that do the best are the ones that promote what they're doing, and not just the money that they are providing for, the grants that they're providing for, but also showcasing the success that they've had in actually deploying the grants. And I think of communities like Minto up in North Wellington, and have done a really good job with their local CIPs. And same again through Bruce County, where the local municipalities, the lower tier communities, have really done a good job in deploying it. So just to give you a sense of, some of the program support that is here, or the grant support, certainly you can receive grants to do housing rehabilitation, signage improvement, and typically there's types of signage that a municipality will prescribe, and this will help offset the improvements to those signs. Facade improvements, obviously everybody understands what that's about. That's improvements to the streetscapes that are made, but we're also seeing CIPs being used to support improvements under the building code. And this is making buildings more viable, and upgrades and modernizing that's being done to them that actually lend themselves to be used as commercial properties as well. Municipalities will very often offset permits to do rezoning or committee of adjustment, as well as development charges. And you can see this is what Gravenhurst has done as well. So there really is a broad range of programming support that can be put in place. And I think it's important, once we've heard from the business community and stakeholders more generally, to be able to ascertain exactly what local businesses or property owners are looking for, and then develop a CIP program accordingly.
Thanks, Lauren. That's great. Okay. Let me go down.
Laura's got her hand up again.
I just wanted to throw two more things into the mix.
Yep.
One was that, I know businesses are looking for incentives and businesses coming in. I think that, we should think about incentives to ensure that buildings are 365 days a year.
Yes.
When we look at some of the other communities, we see buildings that are built that are only inhabitable during the summer months. And if we want to extend that season, we need to look at that. And the other thing that's happening right now, as people access some COVID grant monies and are changing up their workspaces to be more COVID safe, it's unfortunately, we can't be that nimble. But the other thought is the District of Muskoka has a greenhouse gas emission project underway. And often if these suggestions when they're building or retooling their buildings, they can be a real money saver as well as an environmental saver for the business owner. So that's something I'd like to, I don't know if that can be, again, incented, but I know that these are the kind of things that they're looking for. So anyway, I'll stop now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's great. Let me just keep going down. Not sure. Councillor Hayes, you're actually next on my list. I'm not sure if things you want to share now, or if you're here just to listen. And then I have Grant. And then Janet, you can get queued up. So I'll go to Grant next. Yep. Hi, Grant.
How's it going?
Yeah, there you go. And I'll
Excellent.
come, Councillor Hayes, I'll come back. Yep, go ahead, Grant.
All right, nice to see everybody. How's it going? I own one of the properties on Balfall Road there, the Balacade. So this is kind of new to us. We've been running that normally as for the last few years, but due to the damages 2 years ago with some of the flooding and then COVID, we weren't open last year. And, the building's taken a little bit of damage. And I know that corner is on this red map here about trying to revitalize that area. And I think it's a real critical area. And, I guess I'm in a position of, I want to go forward fairly quickly. Like I want to do some stuff with our property and make sure it's like part of the community. It adds to the community through, maybe redesigning it to have a few more stores within it and some, I don't really know yet what that would look like. But I guess for me, not really, being new to some of this process as this isn't my full-time job or anything like that. So I'm fairly new. I just, understanding those grants are there, I guess, understanding the path to those grants, like what's needed from me to apply appropriately and quickly. Like what kind of things can I do to help? What kind of language would need to be done? What kind of things do I need to be considering or be building part of to make sure that we can then do something really great? Because for us, any good idea for the Balacade starts with it needs a new building. It's really, really old, but like really important to the community, and it's been around for a long time. So we want to try to maintain all that together. But unfortunately, it's run its course in terms of trying to actually invest in that building, fixing it.
Okay. And we will, through this process, make sure that we lay out exactly what you're asking for, the path towards getting the grants. Is that correct, Lauren? We'll identify the steps on behalf of the property owners.
Okay, yeah, that's really what I would like to know.
Okay.
Because I would be then ready to go.
Yeah. Lauren, did you?
And I would just add, we'll work with Corey and other representatives, obviously from the municipality, to make sure that, their requirements and criteria are also onboarded. But yes, you'll have a clear path forward.
Yeah. Great. Thanks, Grant. Councillor Hayes, are you? No, don't think so. Okay, then I'm going to go to, I have Janet. Or I have Janie Graham.
Sure.
I
have. This is the first time I've been through a process like this, and I have to admit, a lot of the things I was going to comment on, you've already identified. I'm just a resident here. I don't have a business, but I'm involved with Bala and Bloom, and we do a lot of the gardens around town.
Yeah.
To me, the single biggest issue our little town has is lack of accommodation.
Okay.
And for employers,
Yeah.
it's really hard, affordable accommodation. So I have a whole host of other ideas, but I don't think this is probably the right platform to put them forward on.
Go ahead. You've got the mic if you want to share them, because don't forget the CIP will also identify improvements to streets, parks, open spaces, trail connections.
Well, at the corner of Bala Falls Road and 169.
Yep.
That's a blind corner because of a bridge.
Yes.
It is just, a death waiting to happen. I've seen far too many people turn left when you're not supposed to. And I would love to see maybe a roundabout or some other way to deal with that.
Okay.
I'm
not sure a roundabout works in this situation because of the traffic, but there's other ways that we can look at, other suggestions. So that's good to know.
Yeah, just it is sort of a real safety hazard, I think. Oh yeah, could you add the Moon River public dock into your the one image you had for docking, because you've got the Muskoka Lakeside on. I know the township is looking at rebuilding that dock, but there's a whole bunch of people on the Moon River who would be able to access town if that one could get fixed.
Okay. I believe that was on this one. Okay. Moon River Public Dock. Okay, will do. We can maybe add that before we post this, a hard copy of the presentation to the webpage too. Okay. Thanks, Janie.
And the other thing I'd say is that as an active cyclist up here,
Yes.
You know, I'm encouraged to see that we are getting some wider pavement on our highways, but nowhere near enough. And when you look at other communities like Collingwood, for example, where they are very bike friendly, the whole Muskoka region could do way better if we were more bike friendly, whether it's mountain bike trails, using snowmobile trails in the summer, or you know, better, just safer biking
Okay.
up here.
Okay. Thanks for that.
Okay, that's it for me.
Thank you. So next on my list, I have JJ that's on a phone, or John.
John. Okay.
So JJ who's on a phone, or John.
Hi, this is Jim Jeffrey. That's me. I had some problems joining on my computer, so I had to join from my phone. So I did miss the first part. I literally just joined 5 minutes ago. Just to introduce myself, I actually purchased a plot of land in Bala. It's on the corner of 169 and Elm Street, a vacant commercial lot. And the plan is to actually put a building there with a store on the first level and a number of apartments above it. So we're just going through the planning process with our planner and getting the surveys done. Be submitting it to the township, hopefully in a few weeks. So that's sort of why I joined the call, but I sort of missed the first part of the presentation. So my apologies for that.
That's okay. So tell me again where your property is one more time.
It's on the corner of Elm Street and 169. So sort of just down past the Fresh Mart a little bit.
Okay, let me just go back to this map at the end, sorry. So you're here, the Fresh Mart is here.
Yep, so it's past the Fresh Mart a little bit on Elm Street. So if you see right where this is that word Bala right there, it's right there on that corner.
Okay, okay, great. Well, I'm glad you can join. And the whole meeting is being recorded, and we're going to post that on the project webpage. So you
Okay.
can put yourself up on the other information.
Okay, thank you.
Great to have you join. I got to say, I had, again, really terrific conversations with people who own businesses in Bala and are interested in making some changes. So I'm going to keep going.
Anna, Diane Davidson is the one that says iPhone.
Okay.
Thank you, Robin.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Rob.
And actually, I think iPad is Barbara McIntosh. That mine doesn't have my name on it.
Okay, so we'll go with either one of you. Just dive in and then we'll go to the next one. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
Diane, yeah, you go ahead, Diane. I'll follow you.
okay. Hi, thank you very much. Yes. So like Nora and a few others, I've participated in these workshops before, and honestly, we're rehashing sort of same old. Over the years, there have been some improvements, but we always go back to accessibility throughout town. And these days, more so year-round accessibilities. There's a lot of businesses in town who are making an effort and have been able to stay open on more of a year-round basis. So, you know, the need for year-round accessibility is really important. And we used a term a few years ago when we talked about a route from one end of town to the other. We talked about an active transportation route. So that involved cyclists, pedestrians, joggers, people pushing a baby carriage, and snowmobiling in the wintertime. And Nora touched on the difficulty it is with our snowmobilers. There is a trail identified as a snowmobile trail, but it really is not. It's impossible for a snowmobiler to get from one end of town to the other. And sadly, you know, the businesses are missing out on that opportunity. There's 3 restaurants, the grocery store, a coffee shop. things like that that would certainly benefit
Mhm.
from that kind of accessibility.
Okay.
And as far as parking, yes, that's an issue everywhere. Something that we identified years ago was the possibility of enhancing the existing town docks by putting out finger docks,
Okay.
temporary, so they'd be a floating structure, I suppose. But having the additional docking by way of finger docks in the summer and alleviating a little bit of the in-town parking and encouraging lake access.
Yeah. Yep. Makes
So, the active transportation, and I'm still using that term, really ties into the economic development of our community as well.
Mhm.
And if we can, enhance that a little bit, the economic development portion will fall into place. Unfortunately, affordable housing and all that sort of thing, it is an issue. It's actually more of a district responsibility, I'll say, I think, as opposed to township. But certainly focusing on ways that we can enhance the economic development here, I believe really starts with adequate access and year-round accessibility.
Okay.
So
Fair enough. And I was really happy to see in the township's strategic plan that's recently been released, it talks specifically about year-round amenities in the component that speaks to the economy in Muskoka Lake. So I think there's a good foundation to work from.
well, it's been on the strategic plan for a number of years, really. And there have been baby steps, but really we're still to some extent back to square one. Really, we have to really, I believe, that's my input, is step that up, and a few other things will fall into place. The other thing that I just wanted to just touch on too is that when the township, when the community is considering development and whatever, that being compatible with the existing character is really, really important. And I'm afraid that may fall by the wayside, because just in the late fall, the former, it used to be the Ontario Municipal Board, but the committee is now called the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal.
Yeah.
Ruled that the trailers, mining trailers, whatever, that are placed at the Bala Bay Hotel,
Yeah.
are compatible with the character of this town and have allowed them to stay there. So I personally think that that's a really dangerous new precedent that has been set. So that's something else that I think should be identified, is the importance of the compatibility with the existing character.
Okay, let me ask Lauren, you have your mic on? Are you going to weigh in on that?
Yeah, it was a question that I don't know the answer to, but as we're talking about housing, does the municipality currently allow for accessory housing, basement suites, or other forms of accessory housing?
It depends. In the case of the Bala Bay, for example, housing is an accessory use. It's not a primary use.
Okay.
So I imagine that that's probably fairly standard throughout the township anyways, as far as resorts go, that the resort commercial component is the main use, and then an accessory may be staff housing, let's say.
Okay, I'll have a look at the zoning, because the type of accessory housing I'm talking about is allowing for the creation of additional suites within an existing home. Could you convert your basement into accessory housing?
I can, sorry, if I can interrupt, it's David Pink
Hi,
speaking.
David.
Yes, the zoning bylaw in residential zones in our urban centers do allow what's referred to as a secondary dwelling unit.
Yeah.
So that can be an additional suite within the home, or we actually do allow also an additional unit in an accessory building altogether. Ms. Davidson is correct. In the core area, most of the properties in this core area we've identified are zoned commercial, and we would limit residential uses to accessory only, typically in the upper stories once a commercial use is established. But in the urban centers as a whole, the residential uses do allow secondary dwelling units.
That's what I needed to hear. All right, thank you.
Thanks, David. Okay, and then the other person that was queued up, Robin, the name?
Barbara.
Okay,
It was
go ahead.
Barbara.
There you go, Barbara.
Okay. The one issue that I mean, the presentation is marvelous, and Diane was speaking of, about accessibility. The one thing that I have not noticed in anything is for disabled people is accessibility. In 2021, I think generally for disabled people, both for Port Carling and Bala, it is virtually impossible to get around either into stores, restaurants, on the streets. Accessible parking, it's virtually non-existent.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that needs to be addressed for particularly for Bala with regard to if there are 2 restaurants in town, or were 2, now there's only 1 because one of them was moved and now it's up on a different level. But there's only 1 restaurant that anybody in a wheelchair can actually access. Most of the stores you cannot access in this town.
Okay, that's really good.
And there's sidewalks. It's a general problem, I think, and there are very, if any, accessible parking spots, which I think the one that is there is over in Portage Landing, which when you have any rain is impossible to get around in a wheelchair.
Okay.
So I do think it's a very important thing that has not appeared on any of the lists, or even the ones from Bracebridge or Gravenhurst. And my question would be, is there any thought to giving business owners a grant to make their properties more accessible?
Lauren, do you know of any specific grant programs that?
I don't know of anything off like specific to that, but I know if there are building grants available, I have to think that some of this will address accessibility. But let me flag it as one of the things that we'll look into for you.
Yeah, especially in 2021, I think accessibility is of the maximum importance because elderly people, it's not just for people in wheelchairs, but for the elderly people. I think it's sorely lacking, and I think it really should be put on a priority list.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't speak to the public realm like sidewalks, but I know in other municipalities there have been some easy fixes in terms of some pretty. Well, I know of a business in particular that started just to build the wooden ramps to get into the stores. And
the side, but speaking from not just into the stores, I'm speaking of the sidewalks. You cannot get around Bala in a wheelchair.
Yeah, no, as I said, I'm not talking about the ground, more the sidewalk.
No, yeah, but yeah. Anyway, I think it's something that should be encouraged, and I think they possibly should discuss whether businesses can apply for grants to make their businesses more accessible.
Fair enough. Thanks for that, Barbara. Okay, so I'm going to go down to, I have Mitchell and then Pam and then Patricia. So Mitchell, Pam, Patricia. Let's keep an eye.
Hi, I'm Mitchell. I could start.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a couple of comments. On the topic of bicycles and active transportation, while I was very excited to hear the township talk about doing something, if it's just widening the shoulders, that is just too extremely dangerous on the highway. It would be fantastic if the snowmobile trails could somehow be put into. I have been amazed over the last years how many more bicycles you see riding through Bala now. I guess as you get younger cottage owners, it's just astounding, but it is just so dangerous. And if something could be done, it would be off-road. We're not asking for paving, but the snowmobile trails could be converted into some kind of a bicycle route. If it could get through to Gravenhurst, that would bring so much business in. Okay. The other thing is there any chance that someday, somehow, the train could stop in Bala again? It goes right through town. If there would be a way to have a weekly train that would stop, again, that would bring so much business in. That would be fantastic. On the topic of accessibility, I know that in 2015, Swift River Energy Limited promised that their restoration of the portage landing of the land they destroyed to put in their generating station would include a wheelchair accessible path all the way down to the Moon River. And they're currently trying to get out of that. And it's a requirement that recreational trails should be accessible. They said to Township Council in order to get their approvals that it would be accessible, and they're trying to get out of it now. So I think this would be a great opportunity to put the pressure on the township to make sure to hold them to that commitment that it would be wheelchair accessible all the way down to the Moon River.
The water's edge. Okay. Okay.
And the other, and as you mentioned, the current work that's being considered to be done to the Burgess Dam and to the Bala Falls Road Bridge. I know there's no extra money, and I know the township would just love to like get rid of all these headaches, the maintenance of the generating station, the difficulty of dealing with that bridge. But Bala has put up with so many things against it lately, and it is really worth trying to maintain the Bala Falls Road Bridge to somehow look nice rather than make it something ugly and narrow, and to leave some kind of a structure in place where the generating station is, again, because Bala doesn't have much to look at when you come look at it. And if they get rid of those two things, then it's got nothing left. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Mitchell. I think I had Pam and then Patricia.
Thanks, Donna. I'm pleased to be invited or to get onto this. I have too been to a few of these discussions. I lived in Bala for decades, and I now am a cottager still in Bala. I've been a cottager longer than a resident. But I live in Gravenhurst nearby, and we see grants coming for storefronts for improvement. And I have seen a great improvement in my community here as far as conformity. I think Bala lacks the conformity that it needs. The lighting is irregular. We need dark sky lighting. Hello.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We need conformity to our storefronts. And as Diane said, the trailers going into the Bala Bay parking lot are the beginning of what is hopefully not a nightmare happening down the road. That we have several storefronts in town that are unused, including the property across from the Bala Bay Hotel, which is owned by Marriott. And there are two businesses there that have gone to rack and ruin. Further down the street on the Key Road, we see a few others. And yet beside them are some businesses that have maintained their historic appearance and really made the effort. And it's been tremendous to see people hanging on to what was there, which keeps us all in love with our little town.
I'm just going to interject for a minute. An important component of the community improvement plan will be the preparation of design guidelines that our team is also doing. And that's what you need in place so that people understand what they have to be compatible with. So we're going to try and describe the important and essential components to consider in any facade improvements.
Signage. There needs to be a little more conformity with signage. I think signage is kind of all over the place, and it's getting to be whoever has the bigger sign thinks that they're going to get more business. I think that kind of needs to be reined in a bit. Loving what's happening with gardens and stuff. Let's make it beautiful. Let's make it accessible. Let's make it friendly. And let's keep it going year round. And definitely, we've lost our hotel accommodation. So now we have 2 motels that are open seasonally, and we're screwed.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Pam. Patricia, did you want to share some thoughts? And then I'm going to go down to, I have Shane, Suzanne, and Tiffany. Let's give them a minute. And Councillor Hayes, I'm happy to loop back to you if you had any thoughts you wanted to share, or if you were here primarily to listen.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. I did have a long conversation with Donna on the one-on-one conversations. And today I'm just listening to what everybody else has to say. And there's some really excellent ideas.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Is there anybody else? I believe I have gone through my list as I understand. Oh, there's Tiffany. I think your mic is on, and Shane. So Tiffany, do you want to? Yep, there you go, Shane. Go ahead, and then I'll go to Tiffany. Shane, did you have some thoughts you wanted to share?
I mean, I just didn't know whether or not my mother was just stepping out right now. I see she's jumped on the camera actually, but so myself, my engagement is I'm not a business owner personally, but I have grown up underneath a couple of business owners here in this town. So I just recently finished my master's degree in architecture, and my specific study was within the town of Bala. I proposed an urban ecology, kind of looking at the liminal spaces between these businesses and really kind of honing in on what that vernacular is within context of Bala's history all the way back to the late 19th century. And speaking to what Mitchell mentioned earlier, I mean, the kind of revitalization of train infrastructure, as well as the kind of right of way to the water, and making sure that we still have this accessibility to the water as a part of the character of our community. I've done an extensive amount of research, and I would love to kind of share that with the planning partnership. And
absolutely, I will follow up with you. I would love to hear what you learned and what you dissected and how you probed and began to understand Bala. That's a fantastic thing. So we will connect with you after the meetings today.
Well, thank you. It was certainly a long process, and I just finished that up a year ago. So it's very, it's current, that's for certain. And the site that I chose, I went through an entire strategic planning process on my own through my thesis, and I landed on the Precambrian Shield parking lot in its current state as a piece of land that's actually been remediated for our own infrastructural use. It was a piece of land that was infilled to allow 169 to kind of be put through there as well, where it used to be a kind of rock cascading waterfront in itself, but now it's the highway. So truthfully, I think we have this heritage designated corridor within our town, but looking in the whole 150-year picture of what our town has been through as one of the kind of earliest settlements within Ontario, it's a really beautiful narrative, and I think that we have so much opportunity to play into and really tap into that vernacular or genius loci, and I think that really begins with addressing these liminal spaces, that tying our infrastructure to our economy, and seeing where those two things can add to a more holistic vision of what this town can be.
Okay, that's fantastic. We'll connect after the meeting. I'm really glad you joined and offered that up to the group. That's fantastic. Tiffany, did you have some?
Yep, hi.
There you go. Yep.
Odd following that. So my take on this, I've been involved with all of the projects prior to this, with the streetscape and the business retention development. And, you know, yes, as Diane was alluding to, and Nora, we've done this 100 times. We're banging our heads against the wall. We want to see these things move forward.
Yep.
Pretty well, a lot of the things that have been addressed already by a lot of our peers were questions I did have in my own. I've got several businesses in town, several properties in town, and so sorry, I'm not sure if I'm still there. So with the different businesses and properties I have in town, I would love to be able to do more with them.
Yep.
We've encountered an awful lot. Unfortunately, I've had my hands in a lot of the sore spots, shall we say, and look to move forward. We're in the center of town now, on the corner of River Street and 169.
Okay.
So we have the restaurant there. I also hopefully we'll be able to operate the Ballastone Church, which we operate as an event center. Unfortunately, they started blowing up the dam at that point when we took that over. So weren't able to do much with that. Last year when I had weddings booked, couldn't go forward because COVID. I do have a question regarding, Sorrel had put money aside, I believe that was to be going to the town of Bala. I'm wondering if that's still in the coffers, or will this be part of this?
And then, sorry, who put money aside?
Sorry, Swift River, when they built the dam.
Okay, and you're
There
wondering
was-
whether that's still in the
Yes.
township's bank account,
Yep.
ready to use in Bala. Okay, we'll follow up on that.
So that would be interesting to see.
Okay.
Again, I was looking at the snowmobile bridge. When we did talk about that, we had talked about aligning the snowmobile bridge with the existing Bala Falls Road Bridge.
Okay.
And that would be coming off, joining Divers Point to the township dock.
Okay.
Possibly allowing for additional docking in the summer was one of the concepts we looked at. There were several different concepts that were looked at that time. You know, we've addressed this throughout the years as well. What other questions? And obviously the Bala Falls Bridge, you know, hopefully that I noticed that was cut out of the actual Bala, the initial plan that you had there. I'm assuming that that's because there's another project going on with that. But maintaining that heritage as a resident, I also have a restaurant on Bala Falls Road, which we look to reopen.
Okay. And which one is that?
That's the Moon River Lookout.
Okay.
So we've had a fence built in front of us because there's no fence bylaws, and that allows to build whatever you want.
Okay.
So that has really taken away from the aesthetic appeal of that road.
Okay.
And obviously our location. Yeah, so we want to move forward, and we want to move forward positively. Bala means a lot to us in our community, and we want to be able to run these events and move forward with all of this.
Okay. The restaurant, the property that you have at River and 169, is that the
Bala Bay Takeaway?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that. Snowmobile, and we'll follow up on some of the questions you have and try and report back to people.
Absolutely.
Is there anyone else on the call? It's just 10 after 2. I'm happy to.
Hi, Donna.
Yeah.
Suzanne here.
Suzanne, go ahead.
Thank you. I've only been, we've got a year-round cottage in Bala. And my question is, so all the suggestions I think are wonderful, and I agree Bala has its own sort of feel and character that we should maintain. But a lot of feedback I get from people when I say, you know, do you know about Bala? Come on by. The feedback I get is, no, we can't get what we need in Bala. It's a cute little place, but we have to go to bigger towns to get certain things, which I can see both sides of. My question is, have we done any sort of surveying, if you will, to say what's going to draw people to the area? You know, is there anything that's missing? Because, you know, we can set up the infrastructure and make it accessible and everything, but obviously we want the people there to support the businesses that need to make money.
Right, right. We haven't done a survey of what's missing. We are learning about what's missing through conversations like this, and we certainly have. I am coming away with pages and pages of notes of things that people say are missing. But your point about the kind of what do you need to be able to support a broader range of shops and services, and that usually comes down to people, feet on the street. And so you've heard through these conversations that people are looking for more places for staff to live, more affordably priced housing. I see Lauren's also got her mic on. Lauren, I know this is a topic that is near and dear to your heart. So
I was just going to, I know that Muskoka Lakes has recently done an economic development strategy. I didn't want to speak on behalf of the municipality, but perhaps Corey might be able to provide a little bit of direction as to where the strategy is at right now.
Well, actually, if I may interrupt, it's Diane Davidson speaking.
Go ahead, Diane.
I think that if Suzanne was to have a conversation with Nora from the chamber, there have been studies done in the past. And I think Nora could certainly speak to some of the feedback that was received, and why some people find it difficult to start a business up here.
Right. And I thank you. And I agree. It's almost like a chicken and an egg, because some businesses are going to say, we can't afford to start up. There's not enough traffic. And yet if you get the, are you going to get the traffic with people saying, yeah, it's really cute, but I have to go to whatever it is, Port Carling, Gravenhurst, somewhere else. So it's a bit chicken and an egg, but I'm just wondering, Ken, if there's going to be this investment and we're saying that we're going to improve Bala, is that going to draw businesses and therefore people? And what sort of business is going to draw the people? So if you've done the work, that's great. I'm just curious.
Well, there's certainly a township component too, because there's permit fees and development charges and things like that play into it as well. So as I say, as a starting point, Suzanne, a conversation with Nora from the chamber, I think would enlighten you a little bit.
And we'll make sure that we bring that to the fore as well. We'll bring that forward and make sure everybody understands the other work that's been done. I see Corey's got his mic on.
Oh,
yeah, if I can, Donna, I can touch a bit on how we kind of developed the economic development strategy. And I think to Suzanne's point, I don't think it's one single thing that kind of focuses on that. I think it's a combination of multiple things that kind of will bring us into that more year-round, drawing people here. And I think in our economic development strategy, we've kind of highlighted a few of those in the role that the municipality can play. In particular, we've highlighted our kind of key economic drivers. We've got housing, workforce, and broadband. And then obviously we have some other priority actions too, surrounding tourism, supporting local business. And those involve local community organizations as well. Our partnership with the chamber, we all play a role in it. And I think collectively all those things together hopefully become that driving force to get people here and supporting that more year-round local economy. Hope that answers it a little bit. But yeah.
Sorry, Robin.
Oh, it was just Nora had sent something in the chat window where she had pointed out that the township and public did some of that economic needs analysis in a BR&E. I'm not sure what that stands for. But,
yeah, the BR&E was complete. It's over 10 years ago now, but we definitely took some of the information from there in developing that economic development strategy. It was definitely one of the resources that we looked at. And that's how we kind of help identify those goals that we do identify in the strategy, and look to kind of that being the role the township can play in helping as a partner in everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. People can see that in the chat box link that's sent to everyone. But I will say just on that, Suzanne, again, when I was speaking to some of the business operators, I talked to a couple that have operated their businesses in Bala for 4, 5, 6 years, and they are really energetic and really positive and looking forward to continuing to operate their businesses and expanding. And so there's energy in Bala and people interested in doing things. So it's really great to hear. Anybody else?
Yes, I'm Patricia. I think I missed the opportunity earlier. I just wanted to mention a couple of things. This a plan includes some of the aesthetics of the town, I understand as well. And one of the things that is quite noticeable when one is driving northbound on 169 into the town of Bala, you're going under the railway bridge, which is really rather unsightly. In fact, all of the railway bridges in the town are rather unsightly. They need a paint job. I would assume that's part of the railway ownership and maintenance. But is there some way we can convince them that it would be a good idea, or is there anything that could be done there?
Well, we can certainly make sure we have it on our list of improvements to things that have to do with streets and trails and ways to move around. And we'll talk to our colleagues at the township and find out what conversations have occurred in the past and if we can open up those conversations again. But we certainly have worked in lots of municipalities that have taken full advantage of those overpasses to add some brand and identity to the village, town, or city. So we know it can be done.
Yes, that would be a great opportunity, because that is sort of the entranceway to Bala.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the structure is there, the infrastructure is there, just taking advantage of it.
And the Bala and Blooms people have a lovely garden on the right side on the rocks there. I think there's a canoe out there, and that's nicely maintained, but it would be nice to see an improvement in the look of the train tracks. Okay. And the other thing I wanted to mention is the Bala Falls bridge, I guess the over the South Falls. Yeah. I believe there was talk a few years ago, or another planning like this, talk about it becoming a footbridge. I know that there's also talk about maintaining it for reasons of emergency vehicles getting through. And I certainly understand that is a value to keep that road, but I think it would make a really nice footbridge.
Yeah, there is a separate process that's underway on the Bala Falls Road Bridge, and we'll be monitoring the progress that they're making on that project, and make sure we report out to the larger community about what they're finding. But converting it to a footbridge was, I believe, one of the options. Removing it, replacing it, leaving it as it is. And so I think all of that is on the slate on the table.
And what did you say? Oh, and as far as drawing people to the town, yeah. Is there any way of bringing in or encouraging a pharmacy into our little town of Bala? I think that's probably a detriment to some people wanting to live here full time. I become a full timer 3 years ago after being a cottager for many years. And I'm lucky enough to be living here on the Moon River, but a pharmacy, I always have to go somewhere else. I mean, there was a pharmacy here at one point many moons ago, but I don't know that.
I see Nora had her hand up. Nora, do you want to weigh in on that? Nora?
Sure, I'd like to speak to a few things. And I had a little trouble talking earlier. I'm suffering from a killer migraine, so getting a sentence out well is, I usually present better. I wanted to talk to a couple of things and build on what you just said. So the BRNE, which is Business Retention and Expansion Plan, which was done several years ago, a lot of the things that were identified there in the gap analysis still stand true today. In fact, back then we had a gas station, now we need one. But to the pharmacy and specifically, there are presently talks to bring a pharmacy into town. The issue is they need broadband of 50 megs down and 10 up at the minimum. And so when we're talking CIP, although you don't think about it right away, but broadband is absolutely essential infrastructure that needs to be considered. And the reality is, unless municipalities put some money on the table, even though there are grants out there, it will get overlooked. And Bala has been built over a couple of times with broadband, but insufficient broadband, not good enough to bring some of these businesses. So the major barriers are no housing. And the next one for many of these businesses, like pharmacies, they have to have it. They need better broadband so they can relocate here. So we're hoping that Lake Township is looking at, I think there's a suggestion for a tower near on Gray Street near the fire department, and that tower could feed better broadband into the area. So there are a lot of things sort of happening in the peripheral that really impact economic development in the area. So broadband, housing is just a huge, huge issue. The landscape has changed so much. Those that do have rooms available for even seasonal staff are now Airbnb-ing them. So everything has changed quite a bit from the BRNE, and yet you can look at it and see, just to, I think, Diane's point and to what Tiffany said, that these are things that have been identified in the past. I don't want to get off without saying something about the bridge, though, because I think this is extremely important. No matter what happens with that bridge, whether it be rehabilitated or completely rebuilt, I think that, that generally the town feels this way. I know businesses feel this way. We really would like to see it recreated, shielded, if you would, to be recreated in its historic way. So it still looks like a nice wooden bridge. People come there and have their wedding pictures taken there. That's going to help Tiffany's business with the stone church on the road. And it is possible. I mean, we have Bell Mobility making cell towers look like pine trees. There is absolutely no reason why we shouldn't consider the aesthetics of recovering that bridge in a historic way. Yes, it costs money, but it really needs to be planned for. And I think that build is going ahead very soon. So I just wanted to put the pitch in for there and talk about some of the barriers. And I would be happy to talk to Suzanne Beer about some of the things that we have identified, or any of you, about what needs to come into the town to attract business. And the last thing I'll say, though, is there still continues to be a perception problem. I will have people who phone me in the winter and say, I'd like to come into Bala, but there's nowhere to eat. We've got like 5 restaurants going in Bala, and there's nothing open. Maybe there's nothing open in Port Carling, although there's a couple open in Port Carling now as well. But it's a constant perception battle that we're fight that we don't have anything happening here, when in fact we have a lot going on. So, and there is energy. The new owner of the Portage Landing, that's another thing to consider, is that years ago, if you talked about pop-up shops, that would be considered a bad word. The brick and mortar stores didn't want those. But now they've discovered with retail clusters that if you have those pop-up shops, that becomes an attraction as well. And so people are willing to come in. And they're starting to do some of that in Port Carling. So maybe we need spaces for pop-up shops. And I brought it up because it was something that the new owners of the Portage Landing had mentioned to me as well. So the final thing while I'm on the soapbox is we have to make it easier. We have a person who's been in business for years here wants to move back into the land right beside Overboard, and ran into a lot of red tape. I'm sorry, Township Council and staff, you do such a great job, but they run into a lot of red tape, can't even get them back up potentially this summer. They might have to wait until next summer. So the township itself needs to really look at where unintentionally they create blocks to businesses wanting to come into the area as well. So I'll get off the soapbox now. Thank you, and forgive me for speaking so bluntly. Thank you.
Fine, because we want to hear so that we can dissect it all. That's completely fine. Everything's on the table. So I have just a couple more minutes. Just to call out anybody else?
Can I say something about the parks?
Yeah, go ahead, Janet.
Hi, Janet Lippy. I was disappointed that Jasmine Park and the Sports Park weren't included in this study. And I'd just like to put a pitch in for them. I'm a grandmother. I have my grandchildren here a lot in the summer and all year round. They live just outside of Gravenhurst. And Jasmine Park, if there's money for upgrading what there is for the kids to do there, it would really be nice to see. And it would be nice to see more for the kids to do at the sports park. There's just that one climbing thing. We end up taking the kids to Port Carling a lot. The park at Hannah Park is magnificent. And we take them there in the winter, we take them there in the summer. There's just so much for them to do there. And I think you might find, I know when people ask me where to go with their kids, that's where I tell them to go. And then if they're going to Port Carling, they're going to eat in Port Carling. They're going to, So if there was any
any money to just upgrade. Jasmine Park really needs upgrading, but just more, that would be great.
So,
And
just so everybody knows that the boundaries of the community improvement plan area will be determined through this exercise. So the one that we showed in the beginning is just our first crack based on mapping and the little
Okay.
bit that we've come to understand over the past few weeks. So we're totally, completely open to adjusting the boundaries. So your point about Jasmine Park and the sports park are very good points. And I know when we've had some sessions with our own township staff, they've mentioned that as well. So you're on the right track. We'll be evolving and morphing that line over the next few weeks. Okay, so we're just up at 2:30 and I would like to wrap up on time. I'm going to
I
hand.
have one comment.
Oh, if
Can I
it's
just
just
add-
quick. Yeah, go ahead.
Just quickly, sorry. The sports park.
Yeah.
There's a building on that sports park that cost $200,000 to build when it was erected. It's never been used. There's another underutilized building that was our tax dollars at work.
And what's it intended? What was it
Well,
intended?
it was intended to replicate a train station. It would have been an ideal nurse practitioner station, but that was another argument a decade ago. It's just sitting there.
Okay, well, we'll find out the story behind that and how and when and if it's used. Thanks.
Great. Thanks.
I'll turn it over to Corey and then I'll come back just to the final wrap up. So Corey. There you
Sorry,
go.
thank you. Yeah, looking for the mute button. So just to wrap up, I just wanted to thank everyone again. All the public feedback, the input is great. I encourage everyone, our project page is on our new Engage Muskoka Lakes platform. So that is engagemuskokalakes.ca. So please continue to follow the project there. And you can subscribe for updates and we'll send you email notifications for next stages in the project. Donna, I think there's still one more main public engagement phase, and that's a community survey. So we'll be looking at releasing that in the next couple months to gain some further feedback in the process. I think in that survey, we kind of suggest some more actual potential features or projects and get some input on them specifically. So thank you again, and please follow the project online. Thanks, Donna.
I really do appreciate everybody taking time to join the call. We would absolutely prefer to be meeting face to face, but until we can do that again safely, making do of the online platform. So the whole team, Lauren, on our team from the township staff, Robin, and I've got lots of notes, and I definitely heard about snowmobiles and the businesses, how to get them more involved, and some specific businesses that need for accommodation, the blind corners, comments about making sure things are more accessible, making it more understandable when we do have grants and loan programs, exactly what you have to do to apply for them. We heard about the need for dark sky lighting, storefronts and improvements in any kind of infill development that's compatible with what exists there. I'm really looking forward to talking to Shane about the work that you've done through your architecture program on Bala. Talked about the more businesses, the Bala Fall Bridge, year round. And I gotta say, I had a really interesting conversation with somebody who said that the cottage rental business is up hundreds of times this winter, and that everybody was looking for more things to do. The need for specific businesses, so broadband, need for broadband internets, lots and lots of notes to go forward. So we're going to be summarizing these and what we heard at this workshop and Port Carling's workshop, and making sure everything's posted online. And as Corey said, just reach out to us however you want and share your thoughts moving forward. So thank you very much for joining, and I will end the meeting and end the recording on everyone's behalf. Thank you very much, everyone.